Welcome to the Ask the Email Expert series presented to you by Mailbird. Now, for our first episode, we have the amazing Kath Pay. Kath Pay is one of the top 50 email marketing influencers in the world. She's widely regarded as the UK's foremost email marketing expert. She's the CEO and founder of Holistic Email Marketing, where her team helps world-renowned brands like Facebook develop marketing programs that achieve true one-to-one personalization.
Hi, Kath. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's really nice to see you. And I'm just glad that you're here on another episode of Ask an Email Expert on the Mailbird series. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well, thank you. Yeah.
Nice. So, I want to ask you a question that I ask most of my experts, which is what do you think is the relationship that most people have with their inbox? Is it something that's good? Is it something that's developed over time? And personally, how do you feel about your relationship with your inbox?
Okay, so being a huge email advocate that I am, I love my inbox or inboxes. And I think that's an important thing to note as well, that most people have multiple. So, you'll have your business inbox and you could actually have a few, even one to three consumer inboxes as well. And there's a study that goes out every year, so a bit of research by the DMA UK. And what they do is they go and ask the consumers the kind of things that they do with their emails. And year after year, it's positive. Consumers love their inboxes. Consumers love emails, So what we're talking about here then is a very, very strong channel, not just for email marketing, but also day-to-day emails, whether it is, an email from your mom. I mean, back in the old days, that was how I communicated with mom if I wasn't with her. Nowadays, we could do FaceTime, we could do Facebook messages, there's a whole heap. And so it can get a little bit convoluted sometimes with keeping track of a message, But at the same time, when it comes down to, if I've got a lot of information I want to share with her, it's going to be email, unless I can speak to her on the phone, of course. So yeah, I think you always hear those things about, our email's going away. It's going to be replaced by Slack. It's going to be, replaced by Facebook Messenger and all
New
the rest of it.
messaging app, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going away. These, like I said, they'll have their role, they'll have their part to play, but it really comes down to the actual consumer. And, we can see consumers' behavior throughout different sort of, the millennials are different to the Gen Xers and everything in how they use. But, and this was a really, really big thing that we used to discuss often is, because all the studies were coming out that the teenagers, whatever teenagers they were, because I've been in the industry for 20 years, right? Or over 20 years, whatever teenagers were at that time, so whether they're millennials or Gen Xers or whatever, they were like, they don't like emails. Oh my goodness, email's going to die. But then you start to see their behavior as they get into the 20 plus, and suddenly they're embracing emails, even those that weren't using it, so it's more of an age thing, I think, rather than a particular, usage.
Sure. I can definitely attest to not liking my email growing up. And now that I'm in my late 20s, I check my emails. I shouldn't do this, but I check my emails first thing in the morning. Like I live in my inbox now.
Yeah. No, that's all the important information comes to me either via email or WhatsApp.
Exactly. WhatsApp's another good one too.
Yeah.
Do you see that well, I know people are more private and very guarded about their emails, and especially knowing that you have multiple emails, there's always that one email that you're willing to give to subscribers or do in your inbox, but they're the other emails that you keep really safe. So, how have you seen people treat their emails when they're receiving these email messages from marketers or brands? What's that relationship like? And have you seen certain bad habits that people have evolved around emails as well?
I mean, there's always there tends to be two main camps. It's like the inbox zero camp and the inbox cumulative camp, which is what I find. You should see mine. I've got so many. I've got like thousands and thousands of unopened ones, but I want them there because I want to be referring to them, because that's what I do, though, right? It's not necessarily because I'm lazy, right? There is some intention behind it, but there's a lot of people who are very much into the whole inbox zero thing, and I think that's a personality thing more than, you know, anything else.
I'm definitely an inbox zero person.
Yes, yeah. So is my son. Whereas I'm always like, oh, what was that email? That was I really, you know, and I'll go delving and I'll go and find it and everything. So I have a huge archive. But again, this DMA report that's just literally come out, the consumer tracking study, and each year they ask the consumers, what are the top 3 steps or top 3 actions you will take when you receive an email that is of interest to you, right? They tend to actually save them or bear the information in mind for later, right? They don't necessarily click on them right there and then, even though they could be of interest. Maybe because of the time factor, maybe because they're on their mobile and you know, they don't want to be reading it there, or they can't, and they know they're not going to action it until they get back to their desktop. Or maybe it's not payday yet, so they don't even want to look at it until it's payday. Who knows why they do it? But then I go and work with a lot of clients, and I go and look at their analytics, because what I find is a lot of clients in the email marketing industry will actually, you know, cut off the attribution date, and they'll say, okay, so we're only going to be attributing from this particular campaign the last 4 or 6 days or something like that, because then we've got a next email next week, and we assume that that's going to take over. If you actually go in and have a look, right, you might find that it's got a 3-4 month lifespan, that one email, or every email, right? So that really supports the findings of this report. People will save, and if you are effective, you know, in your messaging and your skills with subject lines and everything, that is the case. So so I don't know that it's any bad habits. I think they're just different habits, and I think if you are an email marketer, you need to understand those habits, you know, so that you can track, change your strategy, all the rest of it. You can react to them, you know, rather than just sitting there saying, oh, if everyone likes this email, they're going to click on it.
Right. But how have you
Yeah.
seen because of course, you know, with the changes with the pandemic and how people are at home, how have you seen email changed since, you know, between 2019 to 2020 and 2021? How has email or the behavior of email and the relationship with email changed as well?
Yeah, well, it, you know, aside from, you know, Zoom and WhatsApp and everything, it is a lifeline for many people as well. And then as far as shopping goes, you know, the whole B2C, okay, you know, they might look at it first thing in the morning, but then they're probably not going to look at it till 5:30 when they get home in the evening. That's out the door, because everyone now is, you know, or has been working from home, and they're also checking their B2C emails. And then you're also finding B2B, the days tend to be a bit longer. Either they're less productive, or they're just working harder because people are furloughed and they're short staffed and all the rest of it. So, you know, that the old predictable or supposedly predictable templates of when B2C and B2B opens are thrown out the door completely. You know, so again, you know, just have to be aware of how people are using email now, and that they are using it differently. And then of course you've got, I know this is more meant to be talking about personal inboxes,
Sure,
but
no problem.
this is a little bit to do with it though too, because people now are actually coming online and buying online when they didn't used to be, right? They're used to walking down the local shop. They're used to popping into, you know, I'm from London, so they're used to popping into, you know, the city centre of London and going to their favourite shop. Well, now they're actually, or they're being forced to actually start buying online, whereas previously they didn't. And email is one of the biggest lifelines for that particular, scenario as well. It drives people to the site.
We use
It
our emails
informs
to get
them.
discounts. We use our emails
Yep.
to label it as products, what our brands are up to.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. So in terms of inboxing and emailing, what's a common practice that you do with your clients to make sure that emails are more effective? And what's one productivity tip that you have with your own inbox? So I'm asking you from the business side and I'm asking you from the personal side as well.
So, okay, so just one. I mean, I've got gazillions of them from the marketing side, but from the business or marketing side, really make your subject lines count. Because as I've just referred to, subject lines or emails have a longer lifespan than you imagine. So what you really want to do is you want to understand that they may not be ready to action it right there and then. They may not even open it. But do they actually have to open it to understand the value that you're imparting to them? Do they have to understand, do they have to open it to get the USP of your business? Not if you craft a really, really good subject line. And I think this is the key thing. So understanding your subject lines have that longevity and that you can make more of them than most marketers are currently, because email marketers tend to be very campaign centric, very campaign mindset, right? So we need to look beyond that and look at the actual, the consumer and what they're doing and start to evolve that way. And now that, if you go and download that report, understand then the consumers are possibly not acting the way that you do.
But as you said, marketers are hooked on the metrics of the open rate more than the click and the conversions.
Yes, yes. And I think for this reason, then I think, everyone is, again, you've got the two camps. You've got the new Apple announcement that they're going to be stopping the open tracking pixel. And not only that, but, people have got the ability to block it altogether. And you've got two camps, people saying, yay, it's good. And other people saying, literally the world's falling down.
Yeah, that's true.
I personally think, yes, there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some challenges as far as deliverability goes, because how we track deliverability and how the ISPs actually track deliverability is based on the open rate, right? Which I always think, because they're talking, it's an engagement metric. And I always think that was a wrong one anyhow. But anyhow, so there's going to be some adjustments needing to be made. But as far as I'm concerned, I've been prevalent in the industry talking for, who knows, 15, 16, 20 years, saying how we are putting too much weight and too much reliance upon a very unreliable metric such as an open rate. So I don't see it as being a bad thing. I see it as being a good thing, because now, instead of, obviously I've been talking about this for so long and it is making headway, I'm glad to say, but still, there's too many marketers in my mind that are still over reliant on the open rate. And so now it's going to be forcing us to be looking at the more meaningful metrics. So, yeah, it's an interesting time. And I guess that kind of, yeah.
What's a new popular misconception people have about email marketing or emails that you've seen arise over this year or last year that you're like, where did this come from? This is not true.
Okay. So I don't know if there's any new ones come up. I mean, I speak a lot about the email marketing myths, and I've actually packaged them up into bad best practices.
Bad best practices. What are the bad best practices?
So there's bad best practices. And the thing I say to marketers is, when anyone ever says this is a best practice, I say, okay, go and question the origins. Question, how did it become a best practice? Because understanding what a best practice is, it means it's good for everyone, not particular instances, not particular sectors or anything like that. It's good for everyone. That's how it's a best practice, right? Unfailingly good for everyone. So there's very, very few best practices, off the top of my head, authentication. Absolutely. That's a very, very, that's a best practice that you need. but there's very, very few. There's lots of trends, what I would call trends. And under that then will come some bad trends. And so, some of them are things like keeping your subject line short. That still is very much a huge trend. And
Right.
that's a couple of sources for that, or reasons for that. First off, because I've been in the industry so long, AOL, right, used to truncate the subject line. And so AOL back then was like the major ISP. So therefore you truncated your subject line, you kept them nice and short and everything, so it didn't truncate. So you got your message through, right? So it could be read in whole. And then of course the mobile, trend started happening, and everyone, and some of the mobiles devices will actually truncate subject lines as well. But from all the tests that I've done, all the research I've conducted and everything, what I've found, right, is the most, and this is a question that's always being asked of me, is should my subject lines be short or long, right? And I always answer them, that's actually the wrong question to be asking.
What
You
should
want
be
to be
asking?
The right question is, should my subject lines be generic, i.e. short, or specific, i.e. long? So generic ones are innately short, right? We have a sale on 15% off today, right? But then when you actually go and open the email, you find out it's actually only for certain parts of the site, or certain categories or something like that. So they weren't specific. So what happens is they'll get a lot of opens and they get a lot of attention, and then people don't click, they don't follow through, they don't buy because they're disappointed because your subject line didn't meet their expectations. So generic ones, which are short, tend to get attention, increase the open rate, but actually develop a little, it's a bad experience, customer experience, or can be, not always, but
Like
can
you're
be.
opening
Right?
a box and you're not getting what you wanted.
Yes. So if you genuinely have 15% off, site wide, then absolutely, that's an appropriate subject line. But if it's the more specific you are, means that you will get a lower open rate, but the people that you're attracting are going to be the ones that are more likely to convert.
True.
Right. So, and again, I can back this up with lots and lots of different tests, hundreds of tests that we've done. So when you think about that, then I still see it in forums. Okay, so I've been advised that I need to, have a short subject line up to 50 characters and blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And everyone's going, yeah, that's best because of mobile. I'm like, just test. And people, the thing is with email marketers is that we are terribly under-resourced, under-budgeted, underappreciated. And so what that means is that we tend to latch onto best practices because they're our silver bullets, and therefore we don't question them. But what I always try and say to marketers is question them, always question them, and then test them. Never blindly implement anything, nothing that I say. Don't blindly implement anything. Always test it and see if it's going to work for you. So that's one of them. So archaic or even inaccurate ones. Then you've got self-serving as well. So some best practices have been implemented in the industry because they serve a vendor and his needs and his requirements, not the marketer and not the consumer, right?
Right.
So again, a very blind, sort of like a straight out one, which in some cases will be good and suitable and other ones won't be, is delete or, stop mailing your inactives. Because, and that all came about because of one research report that was commissioned by a vendor who found out the majority of spam complaints are within the inactive group, right? So therefore, this new best practice was don't mail inactives. But if you actually go in and you do your, you delve into your data, you go and do all of your planning, your strategy, understand how your audience is, you can actually identify what the best time is and then put in a sunsetting program in place, sort of trying to win them back. And then of course, though, they were also basing it, this is what I was referring to earlier, they were also basing it only on the open rates, right?
Yeah, not
As
on the
opposed
conversions
to,
and the clicks.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, just to sort of take a best practice as as gospel is hugely problematic, and I would say is a cause of many businesses today not actually getting all the revenue that they should be getting.
Or benefit
So
emails.
yeah,
What do you see happening in the email industry for 2022, or what's something you'd like to see in the email industry for 2022?
without a doubt, email is going to yet again go through another transformation. They always say, I mean, this whole email's dead again, and or all that kind of stuff. And in the same breath, they also say email is dead, but it's also hasn't changed. It's not sexy. There's nothing happening about it. It's like, I'm sorry, what rock do you live under? Email's
Right.
continually evolving. One of the reasons why we're continually evolving as marketers in the email marketing industry is because our consumers continually evolve, and their expectations, and in some cases demands of us, right, are changing. So therefore we need to be evolving and changing how we market to them accordingly. And so this new Apple and the open pixel tracking news, that's just another step from the consumers saying we want to have more privacy, we want more transparency, and everything like that. So
Controlling your inbox.
that's it. We as email marketers need to fall in line and say, okay, we're going to do what we can, because we still want to be delivering to you personalized, relevant content, right? That's one of the things we want to do, because we understand that personalized and relevant content actually delivers the goods, right? It helps the consumer, going back to that helpful marketing. It helps the consumers to achieve their objective, because they like that you recognize them. They like that you're offering them deals and offers that are suitable and relevant to them based upon their history or what you know about them and so on. So we still want to be able to do that. And the open metric was one of the ways that we were using to do that, but it's not the only way, right? Now, that's not to say that it's going to stop here with Apple. There's a good chance other ISPs are going to fall in line. There's a good chance they could even take that through to clicks. So this could just be the beginning. We don't know that. But at the moment, we just need to adjust our marketings, understanding that the consumers are wanting something different, and we need to be delivering and, accordingly. So that it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm not threatened. I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. I'm getting geared up for thinking outside the box, and that's not thinking outside the box in order to circumvent or find a workaround, but I'm thinking outside of the box how best we can still help the marketer, the consumer, by delivering those goods in personalization and everything. So I think for me, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, more control for people to manage their inbox. That's
Yeah.
where it's going. I like that. Thank you so much. That was a lot of information. Very
Sorry.
no, don't be sorry. It was good. It's a lot of information, a lot of things that we should really consider, whether we're on the end as a consumer or on the end as a marketer, as somebody who wants to grow their business. So I really appreciate you taking the time to go through it and share the studies that come along with it and the best email practices that
Yeah.
I think most of us are guilty of when we see these really quick ways to get the open rates out. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Do you have any last remarks for our audience before you go?
Um, no.
I think
have,
that's
a,
fine.
have a good day.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you so much. And also, guys, thank you. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe and share with someone you think who needs to know this. And we'll see you on the next episode of Ask the Email Expert.